Hello everybody and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video we will be talking about my updated election prediction between Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Donald Trump, of course, is the front runner for the president, for his party's nomination for the Republican nomination for president, of course, and uh, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., of course, the son of Robert F. Kennedy, is running for the Democratic nomination currently, and he is currently polling at around 15 to 20% usually, and that makes him in second place. He's still far behind President Joe Biden. Um, however, he is polling, much better than you would think a challenger to an incumbent Democratic president right now would be polling. I mean, no one really expected him and Marianne Williamson to sometimes be polling at a combined 30%. They're doing pretty good. Um, with that being said, he is very controversial with comments he has made about COVID-19, about jailing opponents to climate change action, among other things. However, he is becoming increasingly popular among Trump supporters. Many are supporting a Trump Kennedy ticket. So it would be very interesting if that happens, but even more interesting if the matchup does become Trump Kennedy. It's very much a long shot for him to win the nomination. I mean, even if Biden were to not end up running, drop out of the race, the DNC would still run a different establishment Democrat and not allow him to win. But um, I have done one of these, I have done one of these matchups before, but I like to stay updated um, with these, matchups among the top contenders for the presidency right now. Um, but um, but yeah, with that being said, let's get started with this election prediction. We'll start with safe Kennedy states. I do want to say that Kennedy will turn out. I mean, he's very, anti-establishment, and he will turn off a lot of traditional Democratic votes. He will gain a lot of Republican votes, though, but probably not as many Democratic votes as he will lose. What will save him if he does win, however, will be independent voters. I really don't think that independent voters have that unfavorable of opinion of RFK Jr. They do like anti-establishment candidates. Safe RFK Jr. states, 15% margins or more. Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington. Probably not Illinois. D.C., Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New York, Maine's 1st District. Safe Republican states, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's 1st and Nebraska's 3rd. Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Indiana, and West Virginia. And that is probably it. Now we'll move on to, that puts RFK Jr. at 162 electoral votes to 103 for Donald Trump. So RFK Jr. does have a lead, as Democrats always do. Going into likely states, these states will be decided by a 5 to 15% margin. Let's start off, of course, with Illinois, very Democratic state, but with a few lost Democratic votes. It won't quite be a safe state. Maine at large, Maine at large, I honestly think is safe. I'm moving that one into the safe column. He outperforms Biden and Hillary, for that matter, here by a lot. And we'll get to Maine second, but I think he picks up so many independent votes in Maine second that it causes it to be safe. Sorry, should have done that one earlier. Colorado, almost safe, not quite there. Same with New Mexico. Minnesota, I honestly think he would have some type of an appeal here. I think there are enough, politically independent-minded voters here that he would be able to carry. And yeah, I think that's it. Let's move on to likely Republican states. Yeah, Montana and Kansas, pretty close to being safe, honestly. But RFK Jr. does win a few, more moderate Republican votes. He would definitely try to work those moderate Republicans. Um, anyway, moving on, likely Republican. Yeah, I mean, Iowa, being realistic, Iowa is a likely Republican state. RFK Jr. will do pretty well in this Rust Belt region. Of course, those white working class voters that Trump won in 2016, he will be able to win in 2024, RFK Jr., of course. So he would gain a few points, but um, it's still likely in Iowa, I think. I don't think he would have enough traction to make it lean in Iowa. Ohio is a bit different story. South Carolina picks up some votes. RFK Jr. does. Um, I think there are quite a few traditional Democrats who have been voting Republican recently that RFK Jr. would win back. Um, and I did forget a likely Democratic state, that being the state of New Hampshire. Many independents here, many people who would love to vote for RFK Jr., many traditional um, Democrats in New Hampshire. Um, moving on. Uh, let's see. That's probably it for the Democrats, and then yeah, I mean, I just added New Hampshire in there. But for Donald Trump, continuing with his likely states, um, I mean, honestly, that's going to be it. Yeah, which is kind of insane because that means there are so many lean and tilt states. But yeah, I don't think there would be any more likely states for either candidate, which again is pretty insane. We never have a situation where there's 198 likely or tilt states lean or tilt states. Um, Now we will move on to lean states. These states will be decided by a 5 to 15% margin. Sorry, not 5 to 15, 1 to 5%. Sorry, I was looking at my phone. That might have sounded a little weird. I wasn't focused. Now I'm focused. Anyway, lean states 1 to 5% margin. We will start with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We will start with Maine's 2nd Congressional District. This is the first flip in this election prediction, and it looks kind of weird because we have not seen Maine's 2nd lean in so long. But I do think it flips to the Democrats in this matchup because, again, as I mentioned before earlier, there are so many independent. Registered independent voters in Maine's 2nd Congressional District, and Democrats and Republicans who are independent minded. I mean, Obama won this by 8 in 2012, and then um, whatever his name is, um, Trump won it in 2016 by 8. That's a 16-point shift in a 4-year time span. So I mean, RFK Jr. I think would win these voters back. Of course, the independent voters. Many who want to heal the divide. Kennedy's whole mission in this campaign. Virginia does narrow up a bit because I don't think that the Republican voters here would be all that into switching to RFK Jr. I just don't get the vibe from them. I feel like they're very partisan voters in Virginia, the Republican ones. And I think that the Democratic voters are very establishment and that Kennedy would lose a few. That being said, has become very Democratic recently, and I do think that it stays with RFK Jr. Um, Moving on. Wow, this is actually really tough because, going down the line here, North Carolina, no, for Lean Kennedy. None of these really are Lean Kennedy. Not Texas. Moving into Arizona, yeah, I'm thinking this is a lean Kennedy state. This is becoming increasingly Democratic, more eligible, younger voters who would choose to vote for RFK Jr. over Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is just being, just hated by these Arizona Republicans. And I think that so many Arizona Republicans would turn out for RFK Jr., and that's how he wins Arizona. I mean, these are more moderate voters, who are so unhappy with Trump's antics, and that they would turn out for Bobby Kennedy Jr. in much higher numbers than they did for Joe Biden in 2020. Nevada, I mean, really a very similar situation. I think that it goes lean for Kennedy. Definitely a state where I think we have lots of Republicans who are tired of Donald Trump, and with Kennedy running a very, especially in the general election, if he were to make it to the general election, running a very moderate, unifying campaign with some conservative ideals, I think that they would happily vote for Bobby Kennedy Jr. Um, and he would be able to scrape by with enough Democratic votes to win Nevada by a lean margin. Uh, the blue wall, yeah, I mean, Michigan, I'm gonna have to give to RFK Jr. This is one with, the critical white working class voters uh, that I think would vote for, that would switch back to the Democrats for RFK Jr. in 2024. I think that that the white working class voters would be more excited to vote for RFK Jr. in 2024 than they were to vote for Donald Trump in 2016 or 2020. So yeah, I think that Michigan goes for RFK Jr. for the same reasons I think that Wisconsin goes to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and um, and that he wins both of those states. Um, I mean, I don't think that that's totally unreasonable. I think that it's totally realistic looking at 2024, especially with Trump's legal battles. I mean, that's a whole nother factor. I mean, with all these arrests, indictments, bailouts, I think that Trump is just getting a very bad reputation, even though, his supporters might raise so much money for it. He's getting a very bad reputation among those critical independent voters. And again, the independent voters, it's what's going to put Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over the edge in 2024. Moving on to lean Trump states. I don't think that there are any more lean Democratic states, and Kennedy better hope that he gets one of these remaining states after these lean Trump states, because he's not at 270, surprisingly. It's 128 to 268. Trump is down by half of Kennedy's margin, but he's still in it. But yeah, moving on to lean Trump states. Definitely Florida, pretty close to being likely. This is one where it went to Trump by 3 in 2020, but RFK Jr. would be a very interesting candidate in Florida. I mean, first of all, he would do spectacular among the senior citizens, and that's a very large voting bloc in Florida in presidential elections. Many people retire there, and because of their age, because they were alive during the Kennedys, they would do extremely well. Or RFK Jr. would do extremely well among those voters, and yeah, but still, it is just growing so Republican, and Donald Trump is very popular there, so it can't go Democratic. Uh, so North Carolina, I think, is staying lean Trump. I mean, it is Republican, and there are in Georgia and North Carolina, there are a lot of establishment Democratic voters. Those African American voters in metro areas vote very along the establishment lines. They voted for Hillary Clinton in the primary in 2016, voted for Biden in the primary in 2020, and those are the voters that really might stay home if RFK Jr. is the Democratic nominee. So that will be a struggle. Um, for RFK Jr. and Trump will probably hang on to North Carolina in 2024. Texas, I think, is lean Republican. Trump narrows it just a little bit, or sorry, RFK Jr. narrows it just a little bit. But at the end of the day, Trump might, or RFK Jr. might pick up some demographics here or there. Hispanic voters, he's been doing pretty well in. I think actually there's a large um, I mean, not an organization, but a large chapter of Kennedy voters who are Hispanics for Kennedy. Um, but that being said, Trump still wins it. And Trump gained 70 electoral votes just from Texas and Florida alone. Ohio, Kennedy will have some steam, but at the end of the day, it's not enough. Trump will still win Ohio by a lean margin, and that puts him even closer. But yeah, I mean, it's not like it'll be anything too close. But RFK Jr. definitely wins some of the white working class voters that Biden failed to do in 2020. Alaska narrows up a lot. I mean, there are so many independent voters in Alaska that would switch to RFK Jr. Trump is not the most popular in Alaska. Right now, I mean, Trump could honestly lose the Alaska primary to Mike Pence. I mean, being totally realistic. I mean, is it likely? No, but it's a possibility, and it's one of the few states where that is a possibility. I mean, that would only honestly be a real possibility if DeSantis is out of the race by then, and it's just Pence versus Trump and a few others. Um, and yeah, that's it. So it's going to be very close. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just needs one of the two states remaining, Pennsylvania and Georgia. We also have Nebraska second. Kennedy or Trump can't win with just Nebraska second. So it really all comes down to Pennsylvania and Georgia. Starting with Nebraska second, of course. And these are tilt states, by the way. States that will be decided by a margin of less than 1%. Anyway, Nebraska second is tilt. There are lots of suburbs in Nebraska second that honestly I don't think would like RFK Jr. very much because of his vaccine comments. Lots of parents. And that branches into the state of Pennsylvania. Lots of suburbs and parents, outside of Philadelphia, who wouldn't be big fans of RFK Jr. Lots of Democrats here in suburbs who voted for Biden in 2020, but I don't think would be as open to voting for RFK Jr. in 2024. That means he does lose a few points. However, we have to remember that Trump is not as strong as he was in 2020. I really don't think after all these indictments, he really is. So I do have to say, and with all the independent voters across the state, I think that narrowly, RFK Jr. wins Pennsylvania by a tilt margin, and he wins the presidency. Finally, I think that Trump wins Georgia. He flips Georgia by a tilt margin because honestly, the moderate Republicans here who had switched to Biden in 2020, I don't think that they would turn out for RFK Jr. Again in 2024 because Biden really positioned himself as more of a sane kind of guy, very traditional, whatever. And RFK Jr. is just not that. I mean, he is not a traditional kind of presidential candidate, and it will hurt him among those voters and Democrats in the urban areas. So I don't think he wins Georgia. But he does win the presidency narrowly with 288 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 250. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos. I am so close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you could subscribe, that would be great. I'm so excited. There will be a live stream party once I hit it. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope to see you all next time.